Welcome back to Mr. Midnight. Tonight we're heading to the cold waters of Alaska with 6 most disturbing, true Alaskan ghost ship horror stories. These stories come from real people who work on boats in Alaska. Ferry workers, delivery drivers, photographers, fishing captains, and boat repair guys who saw ships that shouldn't be there. Ships that won't stay at the bottom of the ocean, crews that won't stay dead, and debts that the sea will never forget. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Now let's jump into Alaska's scariest boat stories. We're talking about ghost ships that appear in the fog, cursed yachts looking for new owners, and cold, dark waters that remember everything. These stories come from people who lived through it and survived to tell what happened. Some weren't so lucky. The ocean up there doesn't play around. It takes what it wants. And sometimes it gives things back that should have stayed gone forever. So grab a blanket, turn off the lights, and let's see what's hiding in Alaska's waters, waiting for the next boat to come along. My name is Melissa Torres, and I've been working as a waitress on the Alaska Marine Highway ferry system for 8 months now. I run the dinner shift in the small cafeteria on the MV Columbia, the ferry that goes between Juneau and Sitka. It's not fancy work, taking orders, pouring coffee, wiping down tables, but the tips are decent, and I get to see the inside passage every day. Mountains rising out of dark water, whales surfacing, eagles circling overhead. Most tourists think it's beautiful. After 8 months, I still agree with them. I grew up in Juneau, worked at a diner on Franklin Street for 3 years before this. I know how to handle difficult customers, how to carry 4 plates at once, how to smile even when my feet hurt. The ferry job pays better than the diner, and I like being on the water. My mom thinks I'm crazy for choosing a job where I'm constantly moving, never in one place, but I've always felt calm on boats. Or at least I used to. What happened last month changed everything. Not just about my job, but about what I thought was possible. About who, or what, rides the ferries with us. It was mid-September, right when tourist season ends and we start getting mostly locals again. The summer crowds were gone. No more families with screaming kids. No more retirees with their big cameras. Just people going home, or visiting relatives, or heading to Sitka for work. Tuesday evening runs are always quiet. The cafeteria is small, just 12 tables, a counter, a coffee station, and a kitchen window where I pick up orders. There's me and usually one other server, plus the cook. That's it. That Tuesday, I was working alone. Sarah called in sick, and my manager didn't bother finding a replacement for a slow night. I didn't mind. Fewer people meant more tips for me, and I could handle it. We left Juneau at 5 p.m. The crossing takes about 4 hours. I started my shift as passengers filed in for dinner. Salmon, halibut, burgers, fries. The same menu we always have. I knew most of the faces. There was old Mr. Peterson, who makes this trip twice a month to see his daughter, the Morrison family with their 2 kids, a few fishermen I recognized from the docks. And then there was the man by the window. I'd never seen him before. He was sitting at table 7, the one right against the big window that looks out at the water. He was maybe 60 years old, wearing a dark blue jacket, the kind with a zipper and a hood. Not fancy, kind of old-fashioned looking. He wasn't doing anything, just sitting there, staring out at the water. I grabbed my notepad and walked over. "Evening, sir. Can I get you something?" He turned his head slowly to look at me. His eyes were pale gray, almost colorless, like fog. They didn't quite focus on my face, more like he was looking through me. "Just coffee," he said. His voice sounded wrong, raspy and hollow, like wind blowing through a tunnel. "Black." "Coming right up," I said, even though something about him made my skin feel cold. I poured the coffee and brought it to him. He wrapped both hands around the cup but didn't drink, just held it and stared at the steam rising up. I figured he was one of those quiet types. We get a lot of them. I served the other passengers, took orders, brought food, cleared plates, normal stuff. But I kept glancing at table 7. The man hadn't moved. He was still holding that coffee cup with both hands, still staring at it. After about an hour, I walked past his table to check on Mr. Peterson. I looked at the man's coffee. It was completely cold. I could tell because there was no steam, and when I got closer, I could see the surface was perfectly still. But his hands were still wrapped around it like he'd been holding it the whole time. "Sir, would you like a fresh cup? That one's gone cold." He didn't answer, didn't even look at me. I left him alone after that. We docked in Sitka at 9 p.m. The passengers started getting up, gathering their bags, heading for the exits. I started clearing tables. When I looked at table 7, the man was still sitting there. Same position, same cold cup of coffee in his hands. I walked over. "Sir, we've docked. You need to disembark now." He didn't move. I felt a little spike of worry. Sometimes elderly passengers get confused or fall asleep and don't realize we've stopped. I called over to Jake, one of the deck crew members who was walking through the cafeteria. "Hey, Jake, this passenger didn't get off. Can you help me out?" Jake walked over, looked at table 7. "What passenger?" "This guy right here," I said, pointing. Jake looked at me funny. "Melissa, there's nobody there." I turned to look at the table. It was empty. No man, no coffee cup, nothing. I felt my stomach drop. He was just sitting there. I saw him. I brought him coffee. Jake put his hand on my shoulder. "You've been on your feet for 4 hours. You're probably tired. Maybe you're mixing up the tables." I looked around the cafeteria. Every other table was empty or being cleared. No man in a blue jacket anywhere. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Maybe I'm just tired." But I knew what I'd seen. The ferry headed back to Juneau overnight. I finished cleaning up, went to my crew cabin, and tried to sleep. I kept seeing those pale gray eyes. 2 days later, Thursday evening, same route, same dinner shift. The man was back. Table 7, same blue jacket, same position, staring out the window. I felt ice slide down my spine. My hands started shaking. I walked up to my coworker, Dennis, who was helping me that night. "Dennis, who's that guy at table 7? He looked over. "What guy? That table's empty." "The man in the blue jacket. He's sitting right there." Dennis looked at me with concern. "Melissa, are you feeling okay?" I walked closer to table 7. The man was definitely there. I could see the creases in his jacket, the gray stub, Lee on his face, his hands resting on the table. He was solid, real, but Dennis couldn't see him. I didn't approach the man this time. I stayed behind the counter and watched him for the entire 4-hour crossing. He never moved, didn't shift in his seat, didn't blink, didn't breathe as far as I could tell. When we docked in Sitka, I watched carefully. Passengers started leaving. The man stood up slowly and walked toward the exit door. I followed him, my heart pounding. Dennis was talking to me, asking if I was okay, but I ignored him. The man walked out onto the deck. The night air was cold and damp. I could see my breath. He walked straight to the rail and looked down at the dark water below. I was about 10 feet behind him. "Sir?" I called out. "We've docked. You need to disembark." He turned around slowly, looked right at me with those colorless eyes. "I know," he whispered. "I've been trying for 30 years. Then he stepped backward over the rail. I screamed and ran to the edge. The water below was black and empty. No splash, no ripples, nothing. Just the dark water reflecting the dock lights. Other crew members came running. I was hysterical, telling them a passenger jumped overboard. They searched the water with spotlights for an hour. The Coast Guard was called. They searched until dawn. Nothing. They pulled up the security footage. I had to watch it with my supervisor and a Coast Guard officer. The video showed me walking across an empty deck, following nobody, running to the rail and screaming at nothing. My supervisor, Captain Morrison, suggested I take a few days off. She said it gently, but I knew what she was thinking. Stress, exhaustion, maybe something worse. "I saw him," I insisted. "He was real. He was wearing a blue jacket." "Melissa, you've been working double shifts. The footage doesn't lie." I went home to Juneau and couldn't stop thinking about about his voice, about what he said. 30 years. I started searching online. Alaska Marine Highway accident reports, missing persons, anything. I found it on the third day. A newspaper article from the Juneau Empire, dated October 1993. Passenger lost overboard during Juneau-Sitka crossing. The article described a man, 62 years old, wearing a blue jacket. He disappeared during a night crossing. His name was Robert Kanosh. He was traveling alone to Sitka to visit his daughter. Several passengers reported seeing him in the cafeteria before he vanished. His body was never found. The article included a photo. It was him, exactly him. Same face, same eyes. I couldn't go back to work. I called in sick for a week. I tried to convince myself it was impossible. Maybe I'd seen that article years ago and forgotten it. Maybe my brain was playing tricks on me. Maybe I was losing my mind. But I knew the truth. I'd seen Robert Kanosh, and he'd been trying to tell me something. When I finally went back to work, I was terrified. My first shift back was a Tuesday evening run, Juneau to Sitka. I walked into the cafeteria at 5 p.m. and looked at table 7. He was there. This time, I didn't ask anyone else. I didn't run away. I walked straight to his table and sat down across from him. He slowly turned his head to look at me. "Robert Kanosh?" I asked quietly. He nodded, just once, barely a movement. "What do you want?" He opened his mouth. No sound came out at first, then like wind through a crack. "I want to arrive." "Arrive where?" "Sitka. I was going to see my daughter. I never arrived." I felt tears in my eyes. "You've been riding this ferry for 30 years?" He nodded again. "How can I help you?" He raised one hand and pointed out the window at the dark water. I looked where he was pointing. At first, I didn't see anything, just black water and distant mountains. Then I saw them. Lights, below the surface, moving, keeping pace with us. Another ferry, underwater, running the same route maybe 100 feet below the surface. I could see its outline glowing through the water. "That's where I belong," Robert whispered. "But I can't find the door. I keep ending up here instead." I was crying now. "What door?" He pointed across the cafeteria to the emergency exit, the red door with the warning signs. "Tell me it's okay to go through," he said. I understood then. He needed permission. He needed someone who could see him to release him. I wiped my eyes and nodded. "It's okay, Robert. Your daughter knows you tried. It's okay to go." He stood up slowly, walked to the emergency exit, put his hand on the door handle and looked back at me one last time. He mouthed, "Thank you." Then he opened the door and stepped through. The emergency alarm should have sounded. It didn't. Everything was silent. I ran to the door and looked out. Robert was there, but he wasn't falling. He was walking down invisible steps toward the water. Slowly, calmly, like he was walking down a staircase. He reached the water's surface and kept walking down into it. The lights of the ghost ferry grew brighter as he got closer. He stepped onto its deck and the lights started to fade, sinking deeper into the darkness. I watched until I couldn't see anything anymore. I never saw Robert again. But I see others now. Different passengers every few weeks, all sitting alone at table 7, all wearing clothes from different decades. A woman in a 1970s dress, a man in a 1960s suit, a teenage boy in an old Juneau high school jacket. I don't tell anyone anymore. I just do my job. And when I see them, I sit down and ask what they need, and I give them permission to go home. Sometimes, during night crossings, I look out the window and see the ghost ferry running parallel below us. Its cafeteria is full of passengers who finally made it to where they were going. Robert is there, at his table by the window, and this time, he's smiling. My name is Melissa Torres. I am still a waitress on the Alaska Marine Highway, but now I'm something else too. I'm the ferryman for the ferrymen, the only living person who can see them, who can help them disembark. After 30 years, or 40, or 50, it's not the job I signed up for, but it's the one I have now, and I wouldn't leave it for anything. My name is Marcus Webb, and I've been a marine delivery driver for Island Essentials for 6 years. I run groceries and supplies to the small communities scattered across southeast Alaska, places so remote you can only reach them by boat. I grew up in Juneau, spent my whole life on the water, got my captain's license when I was 23. My dad was a fisherman. His dad was a fisherman. The ocean is in my blood, people say. They mean it as a compliment. They don't know how literal that's about to become. I've navigated through storms that could flip a 40-foot vessel, fog so thick you navigate by sound alone, seas that run black and cold enough to stop your heart in 4 minutes. I've pulled 3 people out of the water over the years. I've seen things: whales breaching at dawn, orcas hunting in packs, the northern lights reflecting off ice fields like God's own light show. I love this job. Love the rhythm of it, the solitude, knowing these tiny communities depend on me showing up every Tuesday and Friday like clockwork. But what happened last October 12th, about halfway to Port Frederick, taught me something the old-timers in Juneau have always known but never talk about. The ocean doesn't just take bodies, it takes everything. And sometimes it gives back what it took, but wrong, changed, hungry. That morning started like any other Tuesday. I left Juneau Harbor at 6 a.m. sharp. My boat, the Island Runner, a 26-foot workboat I'd maintained myself for 4 years, loaded with 3 weeks' worth of supplies for Port Frederick. Population 47, most of them over 60, all of them depending on me. Coffee for Mrs. Chen, who orders 6 pounds every trip and tips me in homemade cookies. Fresh vegetables for the Harrigan family, Tom, Sarah, and 3 kids under 10 who treat my arrival like Christmas. Insulin for old Roy Parsons who'd die without it. Mail. Packy. Ages. The ordinary cargo of ordinary lives. The weather report said fog, but nothing unusual for October. Temperature 43 degrees, light chop. I had my thermos of coffee, black how Dad taught me, my GPS showing the familiar path, my radio tuned to channel 16 for emergencies. I'd made this run maybe 120 times. I could navigate it in my sleep. 3 hours in, halfway to Port Frederick, I saw the boat. At first, it was just a shape in the fog, a dark silhouette that shouldn't have been there. I knew every boat that worked these waters, knew their schedules, their routes. This one was wrong somehow. Wrong place. Wrong time. As I got closer, maybe 300 feet out, I slowed to idle and grabbed my binoculars. Commercial fishing vessel. Older model, probably early 80s. White hull, streaked with rust like dried blood. Dead in the water, no wake, no movement. Nets deployed off the starboard side, hanging limp. I picked up the radio. Unidentified vessel. This is the Island Runner off your port bow. Do you need assistance? Static. Then silence. Not even the squelch of an open channel. Maritime law is absolute. If you see a vessel in distress, you help. No exceptions. I'd been raised on that law. My father died following that law, going out in a storm to help a boat that was already gone. I pulled alongside, maybe 50 feet out now. The name on the hull said Pacific Dawn in faded blue letters, paint peeling like diseased skin. Something felt wrong. Not danger wrong. Worse. Like finding a door in your house you've never seen before wrong. I cut my engine. In the sudden silence, I heard nothing from the Pacific Dawn. No generator hum, no radio chatter, no engine idle. Just the water slapping both hulls and my own breathing, too loud in my ears. Hello? Anyone aboard? My voice disappeared into the fog. No echo, like the sound just stopped. I should have left. Every instinct I had, every lesson Dad taught me, every close call I'd survived, was screaming at me to fire up the engine and run. But Roy Parsons needed his insulin. The Harrigans were waiting. And maybe someone on that boat needed help. I tied up alongside the Pacific Dawn, good knots, the bowline Dad taught me when I was 7, and climbed aboard. The smell hit me first. Salt and rust, yes, but underneath something organic and wrong. Not fish rot, which I knew intimately. This was older, deeper, like opening a freezer that's been unplugged for months. The deck was wrong, not damaged. Wrong. Equipment everywhere, scattered like the crew had just walked away mid-task. Bait buckets still full, fish heads floating in cloudy water that should have evaporated or spilled days ago. Fishing rods leaning against the rail, tackle boxes open, lures and hooks gleaming wet. A coffee thermos sat on the deck. I picked it up, still warm. "Hello?" I called again, louder now. "Coast Guard requires me to check for survivors. If you're injured, I have medical supplies." Nothing. But I felt watched. You know that feeling? Not paranoia. Certainty. Something was looking at me. I walked to the wheelhouse. The door stood open, creaking slightly. Inside, everything looked frozen in time. Coffee mug on the dashboard, still half full. Cigarette butts in an ashtray, one still showing a lipstick mark. Navigation charts spread across the small desk, marked with positions and times. And a ship's log, open to the last entry. The paper was yellowed and damp, but readable. The date at the top made my stomach drop. October 8th, 1987. 37 years ago. I read the entry out loud, my voice shaking. Day 4 of fishing. Good catch. 40 tons halibut. Weather turning, something strange on the sonar. Deeper than the trench should be. Looks like we're being followed. Mike says he saw. The entry stopped mid-sentence. Pen still lying across the page. My hands were shaking now. I set the log down carefully and grabbed my radio. Coast Guard, this is Marcus Webb on the vessel Island Runner. I'm at coordinates. The engine started. Not my engine. The Pacific Dawn's engine, directly below my feet. A deep, rumbling diesel sound that vibrated through the deck and up into my bones. I didn't start it. Nobody else was here. I was certain of that now. The wheel began to turn. I watched it happen. The old wooden handles rotating slowly to the right, smooth and deliberate, like invisible hands gripping them. The boat lurched forward, picking up speed. No, this isn't. I grabbed the wheel, tried to turn it back, locked solid. I pulled with all my strength. It wouldn't budge. I ran to the throttle, pulled it back. Nothing. The engine roar increased. I ran outside to the rail where I'd tied up. My boat should have been right there, 10 feet away, rope still connecting us. The Island Runner was gone. The rope was still tied to the Pacific Dawn's cleat, but the other end just trailed in the water, the frayed edge still smoking like it had been cut by something hot. I spun around, scanning the ocean in every direction. There, 200 feet away, already growing smaller, my boat, drifting backward through the fog like an invisible hand was pulling it away from me. "No!" I screamed. "No! Come back!" But the Pacific Dawn was moving faster now, building speed, heading out to open ocean, and my boat, my lifeline, my life, was disappearing into the fog behind me. I ran back to the wheelhouse, my mind racing. The throttle didn't work. The wheel was locked. I pulled out my phone. No signal, not even the searching icon, just a blank screen like the phone had forgotten what it was supposed to do. I grabbed the radio, turned the dial through every channel, static on all of them. Not even Coast Guard emergency frequency, just white noise, and underneath it something that might have been breathing. The GPS was working though. I watched our position change on the screen as the boat carried me away from everything I knew. We were heading northwest, out into open ocean, away from the shipping lanes, away from any possible help. I tried everything. Went down to the engine room, dark and hot and smelling like burning oil, and tried to find a shutoff. The controls were rusted solid, wouldn't move. I looked for an emergency kill switch, couldn't find one. I tried to break the fuel line with a wrench. The metal wouldn't even dent, like it was made of something harder than steel. I went back to the wheelhouse and tried to smash the GPS. The screen wouldn't crack. I beat on it until my hands bled. Nothing. The Pacific Dawn ran for 3 hours. 3 hours while I tried everything I could think of. I searched every inch of the boat looking for answers, for help, for anything. I found crew quarters with bunks still made, sheets tucked in tight. I found a galley with dishes in the sink, food in the refrigerator that should have rotted decades ago but looked fresh. I found a photograph taped to a mirror. 4 men and 1 woman, arms around each other, smiling, young. On the back, someone had written, Pacific Dawn Crew, Day 1, October 5th, 1987. Here's to a good season. I stared at their faces. They looked so alive, so happy, so normal. I wondered how long it took them to realize they were never going home. I found another photograph, this one tucked into a Bible in the captain's quarters. Same crew, but different. Taken on the deck from what looked like a self-timer. They weren't smiling. They were looking off camera, all in the same direction, at something outside the frame. Their faces were wrong, too pale, too still, eyes too wide. On the back, Day 7. It won't leave us alone. I put the photograph down with shaking hands. That's when the engine stopped. The sudden silence was so complete, it hurt. I stood in the captain's quarters, my breathing too loud, my heartbeat too fast, and felt the Pacific dawn rocking gently on calm water. I ran to the wheelhouse. The GPS showed coordinates in the middle of nowhere, 60 miles offshore. The ocean depth here read 1,247 feet. Nothing around for miles, just open water and fog so thick I couldn't see 30 feet. I stood at the wheel, gripping it even though it was useless now, and tried to think. The Coast Guard would search for me. Island Essentials would report me missing when I didn't show up in Port Frederick. They'd find the island runner drifting. They'd come looking. I just had to survive until they found me. Then I heard the engines, multiple engines, coming from different directions. Deep diesel rumbles that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Boats emerged from the fog. One appeared off the port bow. An old tugboat, squat and ugly, rust covering every surface. Then another off starboard, a fishing vessel like the Pacific Dawn but bigger, nets torn and hanging. Then more, 5 boats, 8, 10, all old, all different, all wrong. They were forming a circle around me. 12 boats total, all different sizes and decades, all running dark with no lights, all surrounding the Pacific Dawn in perfect formation like they'd done this 1,000 times before. I could see crews, people standing at the rails, completely motionless, all staring at me. My rational mind tried to work. This wasn't possible. There was no reason for this many boats to be out here, no reason for them to surround me, no reason for them to just sit there silent and watching. But they were here. They were real. I could hear their engines, smell their exhaust, see the water rippling around their hulls. I raised my hands waving. Hey! Hey! I need help! My boat, the engine started by itself. I'm stranded here. Nobody moved. 30 or 40 people across all those boats, and not one of them reacted. They just stood there, staring. I grabbed binoculars from the wheelhouse and looked at the closest boat, maybe 50 feet away now. The crew wasn't right. They're cool. Our skin was gray. Not pale, not sick. Gray, like stone or clay or something that had never been alive. Their clothes were old, different eras. One man wore fishing overalls that looked like they were from the 1960s. A woman next to him had on a jacket that said Bering Sea 1992. Another man wore a flannel shirt and jeans that could have been from last year or 20 years ago. But their faces, God, their faces. Their eyes were empty, not closed, empty. Like somebody had scooped out everything behind them and left just the holes. Their mouths hung slightly open, all at the same angle, like they'd forgotten how mouths worked. And they weren't breathing. I watched through the binoculars, counted 30 seconds, a minute. No chest movement, no blinking, no small movements that living people can't help making. They were dead, all of them. Standing at the rails of ghost ships, and they were dead. The man closest to me, the one in the 1960s overalls, slowly raised his arm and pointed at me. Then all of them pointed. Every person on every boat. 40 dead crew members extending their arms in perfect unison, fingers aimed directly at my chest. I dropped the binoculars. My legs gave out and I collapsed on the deck because my brain couldn't process what I was seeing. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. People don't do this. Dead people don't stand on boats and point at you. "What do you want?" I screamed. My voice didn't echo. It just stopped, like the fog had swallowed it. The boats started moving, circling, slowly rotating around the Pacific Dawn, all maintaining the same distance, all moving in perfect synchronization. I was at the center of a carousel of death. I scrambled to my feet and looked down at the water between the boats. Debris. Everywhere. Floating in the circle like it was trapped here. Pieces of broken hulls, different colors and wood types. Masts snapped in half. Life preservers with names written on them in faded marker. Jenny's Hope, Northern Star, Sea Mercy, coolers, buoys, fishing nets, a child's toy boat, bright yellow plastic, Bobby Sus, hung between pieces of a shattered fiberglass hull. This wasn't just a graveyard, this was a collection. The boats got closer, 40 feet away, 35. I could see individual features now, the rust patterns on their hulls, the broken windows in their wheelhouses, the way some of their nets were tangled with human-shaped things that weren't quite human anymore. And I could see more crew members, not just at the rails. Behind the windows, in the shadows, dozens more, maybe hundreds, all standing, all staring, all pointing. I understood then. The Pacific Dawn had brought me here as an offering. Or maybe I was already part of it, had been since the moment I stepped aboard. These boats, this fleet, they collected the lost ones. The fishermen and delivery drivers and Coast Guard crews who disappeared in the Alaskan waters over decades, maybe centuries. They wanted me to join them, to become another gray-faced crew member standing at the rail, pointing at the next lost sailor, helping to maintain the circle, keeping the graveyard alive. And the worst part, the part that made me fall to my knees and vomit onto the deck, was that I recognized one of them. A man on a fishing boat directly across from me, older, maybe 60s, wearing a captain's hat and a rain jacket. I'd seen his face before, in newspaper articles, in the Coast Guard reports I'd read during my training. Captain William Marcus disappeared October 1967 with his entire crew aboard the vessel Northern Star. They'd been searching for him when I was born. He was legendary in Juneau, the ghost captain, the man who'd vanished on calm seas in clear weather with no distress call, no wreckage, nothing. And he was standing right there, still wearing the same jacket from his newspaper photos, still the same age, still pointing. He'd been here for 57 years. I looked at the other faces and saw more. A woman, ID, seen in a memorial at the Juneau Harbor, gone 1983. Two young men whose photos hung in the Island Essentials office, missing 1995. They'd been delivery drivers before me. They'd run the same route I ran. This fleet didn't just collect boats, it collected replacements. Every time a boat vanished, someone else eventually came to fill that route, run that delivery, fish those waters. And eventually, the graveyard fleet would collect them too. The circle was 20 feet away now, close enough that I could hear them breathing, or the sound that dead things make that's like breathing but wrong, like air being pulled through wet cloth. I had maybe minutes before the boats closed in completely, before dead hands reached across the gap and pulled me onto one of those vessels, before I became another gray face in the fleet. I couldn't fight them, couldn't outrun them. The Pacific Dawn was dead in the water and my boat was gone, and there were 40 corpses closing in on me, but I could burn. I ran to the storage compartments, throwing doors open, searching frantically. I found what I needed in the third one, a metal box with emergency flares inside, 6 of them. Waterproof, military grade. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the first one. I struck it against the igniter. It sparked brilliant red, bright enough to hurt my eyes. I threw it into the wheelhouse. It landed on the pile of charts and immediately the old dry paper caught fire. The second flare I threw into the open engine room hatch. I heard it land in the oil-soaked floor with a whomp that shook the whole boat. Third flare onto the deck. Fourth, into the crew quarters. The Pacific Dawn was old and dry and hungry for fire. Flames spread across the deck like water, climbing up the wheelhouse walls, smoke pouring into the fog. I could feel the heat on my face, could hear the wood cracking and splitting. The ghost boats didn't react. They kept circling, kept closing, kept pointing. Like they'd seen this before. Like this was part of the process. I grabbed the last 2 flares, lit them both, and threw them as far as I could toward the closest ghost boat, the one with Captain William Marcus. Then I ran to the rail, grabbed a life vest from a hook that was already half melted from the heat, and jumped. The water was so cold it stopped my heart. I'm serious. I felt it stutter in my chest, felt my whole body seize up. Cold like this isn't just uncomfortable. It's violent. It attacks you. But I kicked away from the burning boat, kicked as hard as I could even though my legs were already going numb. I had to get away, had to put distance between me and the fleet before they decided to follow. Behind me, I heard nothing. No shouts, no engine changes, no reaction at all. Just the crackle of the fire and my own gasping breath. I forced myself not to look back for 10 minutes, just kept swimming, kept kicking, even when my muscles were screaming and my brain was getting fuzzy. When I finally looked, the ghost boats were still there, still circling the Pacific dawn, which was now a tower of flame in the fog. Still pointing, but not at me anymore. At the burning boat, like they were marking it, claiming it, adding it to their collection officially. I turned away and kept swimming. I don't know how long I was in the water. Time stopped meaning anything. There was just the cold and the movement and the slowly growing certainty that I was going to die out here, that the ocean would take me like it took Dad, like it took everyone eventually. Then I heard an engine, a real one, modern, powerful, getting closer. The Coast Guard cutter came out of the fog like salvation, like an angel, like proof that the real world still existed. Strong hands grabbed me, pulled me up. They wrapped me in thermal blankets, started asking questions. I tried to answer, but my jaw wouldn't work right. My whole body was shaking too hard to control. "Easy, easy, we've got you," a young guardsman said. H. He had kind eyes. He looked maybe 22. "You're Marcus Webb, right? Island Essentials? We've been searching for 3 hours." "The fire," I managed to say. "Did you see the fire?" "We saw your flares," the captain said. Older man, maybe 50, professional voice. "Came as fast as we could. You're lucky. Another 20 minutes and we might not have found you." "Not my flares," I said. "The boat, the Pacific Dawn, it was burning." The captain and his crew exchanged looks, the kind of looks that meant they'd already decided what was wrong with me. "There's no boat burning," the captain said carefully. "We've got clear radar for 5 miles, just empty ocean." No, there were 12 boats. They were circling. The crew they were dead. They were all dead and pointing. "Marcus." The captain crouched down to my level. "You've got severe hypothermia. Your body temperature's 89 degrees. You're disoriented. We need to get you warm and get you to a hospital." I heard him radio back to base. "We've recovered the missing delivery driver. Severe hypothermia. Victim is experiencing hallucinations and disorientation, requesting immediate medical evaluation in Juneau." They took me to the hospital. The doctors kept me for 2 days. Severe hypothermia, mild frostbite on 3 fingers, dehydration. They ran a psychiatric evaluation. Standard procedure for maritime trauma, they said. The Coast Guard searched the coordinates where they'd found me. They used sonar, divers, helicopters. They found nothing. No burning boat, no wreckage, no Pacific Dawn, no evidence any vessel had ever been there. My boat, the Island Runner, was found drifting 18 miles away, engine off, still half full of groceries. The insulin had spoiled. Mrs. Chen's coffee was ruined. The Harrigan's kids went hungry. The official report said I'd probably fallen overboard somehow, suffered immediate hypothermia, and climbed back aboard in a disoriented state. The hallucinations were consistent with extreme cold exposure and oxygen deprivation. Nobody believed me. My boss was sympathetic, but worried. The Coast Guard psychiatrist recommended continued counseling. My friends in Juneau looked at me with pity. I quit the next day, took a job at a warehouse in Anchorage, 300 miles from the ocean, 800 miles from the graveyard fleet. Groundwork, concrete floors, fluorescent lights. Nothing natural anywhere. I told my boss I'd had a scare on the water, Needed a break. He understood. For 3 months, I convinced myself I was okay. I went to work, ate meals, slept in a bed, did all the normal human things. I didn't tell anyone about the nightmares, the pointing, the gray faces, the sound of engines circling. That was private. That was mine to deal with. Then 3 months and 4 days after the incident, I was walking past a marina in Anchorage. Just a small one, mostly recreational boats, rich people's toys. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was thinking about what to have for dinner. That's when I saw the Pacific Dawn. It was tied up at Dock 7, perfectly intact. The hull was clean, freshly painted white. The nets were new. The name on the hull was sharp and clear, Pacific Dawn in blue letters that looked like they'd been painted yesterday. And there was a sign in the wheelhouse window. For sale. Best offer. Contact Harbor Master. I stopped walking. People moved around me on the dock. A jogger passed. A couple holding hands. Normal people living normal lives. I walked closer even though every cell in my body was screaming at me to run. I couldn't help it. I had to know. The boat looked perfect. Better than perfect. Like it had just come from the factory. I walked down the dock, my footsteps echoing on the wooden planks. I looked through the wheelhouse window. I was standing inside. My own face exactly as I looked right then. Same jacket, same haircut, same everything. But the skin was gray. Stone gray. The eyes were empty holes. The mouth hung open at that same angle I'd seen on the Ghost cruise. The other Marcus was standing at the wheel. Just standing there. Not moving. I stood frozen at the window staring at my own corpse. And my brain was trying to process what this meant. Was this the future? Was this some kind of warning? Was I looking at... The other Marcus turned his head. Slowly, mechanically, like a rusty hinge, the gray Marcus turned and looked directly at me through the window. Our eyes met, mine alive and terrified, his empty and knowing. The gray Marcus smiled. Not a happy smile. A knowing smile. Like he'd been waiting for me. Then he raised his arm and pointed at me. I ran. I ran so hard I thought my heart would explode. I ran until I was back in my apartment with the door locked and barricaded and all the curtains closed. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days. When I finally went back to that marina, Dock 7 was empty. I asked the harbor master about the Pacific Dawn. He looked confused. "We haven't had a boat by that name here in years," he said. "Dock 7's been empty all month." A week later, my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. "Island Essentials, this is Marcus calling. We need you to make a delivery to Port Frederick. When can you start?" It was my voice. My exact voice, my inflection, my slight accent, like listening to a recording. I hung up without saying anything. The calls come every Tuesday now. Same time, 6 a.m. when I used to leave the harbor. Same message. Always my voice asking when I'm coming back to work. I never answer anymore. I just let it ring. But last week, I almost picked up. My hand was on the phone, finger hovering over the button. Part of me wanted to say yes, wanted to say I'd come back, make the run, deliver the groceries. Because part of me is already there. I know that now. When I stepped onto the Pacific Dawn, when I stayed aboard even though every instinct told me to leave, when I read that ship's log, some part of me stayed behind. Joined the fleet. Became another gray face waiting for the CI, Urkel to close. It's just a matter of time before the rest of me follows. 2 nights ago, I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of boat engines. Deep diesel rumbles, multiple engines, circling my apartment building. I live on the 3rd floor in Anchorage, 800 miles from the ocean. But I could hear them out there, circling, getting closer. I looked out my window. The street was empty, but I could hear them. Last night I found wet footprints in my apartment, leading from the door to my bedroom. Boot prints, the kind fishermen wear. They stopped at the foot of my bed. This morning, I found a photograph slipped under my door. The Pacific Dawn crew from 1987, the one I'd found in the captain's quarters. Same photo, same people. But there's one more person in it now. Standing at the edge of the group, half in shadow. It's me. I'm wearing the same jacket I wore that day, same expression I had when I first saw the ghost fleet. But my skin is starting to look gray. Tomorrow is Tuesday, 6 a.m. The phone will ring. And I think this time I'm going to answer. Because the ocean doesn't just take bodies. It takes everything. Your life, your future, your choices. And eventually, whether you fight or run or hide, it comes to collect what it's owed. The Pacific Dawn is waiting for me. It's been waiting since before I was born, since my father died following maritime law, since my grandfather went down with his boat in 1952. The ocean has been collecting my family for generations. Now it's my turn. If you're reading this, if anyone finds this, don't become a delivery driver in Alaska. Don't answer distress calls from boats you don't recognize. Don't trust the fog. Don't trust the silence. And if you ever see a boat called the Pacific Dawn, no matter how much they're selling it for, no matter how perfect it looks, run. Because some boats don't take you where you want to go. They take you to where you've always been going. They take you home. My name is Jenny Morrison, and I've been a freelance real estate photographer for 6 years now, working all across Alaska. I'm originally from Seattle, moved up here after my divorce because I needed distance, and Alaska offered both distance and work. I drive a 2015 Subaru Outback with 140,000 miles on it. I drink my coffee black because cream went bad on me once during a 3-day shoot in the bush, and I listen to true crime podcasts during those long drives between Anchorage and wherever the next job takes me. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand I'm a normal person. I pay my bills late sometimes. I eat gas station sandwiches. I'm not special. I'm not sensitive to ghosts or spirits or whatever you want to call them. But what happened in Petersburg last March changed everything I thought I knew about what's possible in this world. I got the call on a Tuesday morning. I was in my apartment in Anchorage, eating cereal and looking at my bank account. I had $340 to my name. Rent was $1,200 and due in 5 days. My car needed new tires before winter really set in. I'd been driving on bald rubber for 2 months and I knew it was stupid, knew I was one patch of ice away from disaster. The number came up as Hansen Associates Legal. Ms. Morrison? This is Richard Hansen. I'm an attorney handling the Chen estate. I need photographs of a boat for sale. It's docked in Petersburg. The pay is $500 for approximately 2 hours of work. Would you be available this week? $500. I didn't even negotiate. I can be there tomorrow. Excellent. The boat is a 40-foot yacht called Second Wind, slip 12 at the Petersburg harbor. I'll meet you there at noon with the keys. He paused. Just photograph everything and leave. Don't stay longer than necessary. Is there something wrong with the boat? No, just the estate situation, and it's complicated. I'll explain when I see you. I should have asked more questions, but I needed that money. The drive to Petersburg took 3 hours. I left at 8 a.m., stopped for gas in Girdwood, bought a terrible coffee at a place called Moose Tooth. The podcast I was listening to was about a woman who disappeared from a cruise ship in the Caribbean. They never found her body. They never found anything. The host kept saying, "It's like the ocean just swallowed her whole." I turned it off somewhere around mile marker 45. Petersburg is a fishing town, built on pilings over the water. Everything smells like salt and diesel and old fish. The harbor was on the north side, past the canneries. I found slip 12 at 11:55 a.m. The boat took my breath away. Second Wind was beautiful. Not old beautiful, like a classic restored yacht. New beautiful. The hull was white fiberglass that looked freshly waxed, chrome railings polished to mirrors, tinted windows that reflected the gray sky. The name was painted in gold script letters across the stern. Professional work, the kind that costs $500 just for the lettering. This boat looked like it had been launched yesterday. A black Mercedes was parked in the gravel lot, and Richard Hansen stood beside it. He was maybe 50, wearing a suit that hung off him like he'd recently lost weight. His face was gray, not pale, gray, like old paper. "Ms. Morrison." He walked toward me, but stopped 10 feet away. "Thank you for coming." "That's a beautiful boat," I said. "Yes." He pulled keys from his pocket but didn't hand them to me. The previous owner was David Chen. He and his wife Sarah purchased the yacht 2 years ago. David died 6 weeks ago. Heart attack. We found him in the master cabin. I'm sorry. His wife Sarah is missing. Has been for 3 months. Hanson's hand shook as he finally extended the keys. "I need you to photograph everything. Interior, exterior, engine room if you can access it. Standard listing photos. But please, Ms. Morrison, don't stay on that boat any longer than necessary." "Why not?" He looked at the yacht. "Because everyone who's been on that boat tells me the same thing, that something feels wrong, that they hear footsteps when no one's there, that the GPS shows impossible data." He met my eyes. 4 real estate agents have refused to list it. You're the 7th photographer I've called. The others wouldn't even come down here. I should have left. I should have gotten back in my Subaru and driven away, but I needed $500. "I'll be fine," I said. "I've photographed foreclosures where people died. Doesn't bother me." Hanson nodded slowly. "I'll be in my car. When you're done, just bring me the keys. I'll wire your payment immediately." I walked down the dock. My boots echoed on the wooden planks. The air smelled wrong, not fish and diesel like the rest of the harbor, but something else, something clean. Chemical clean, like a hospital. I stepped onto the deck. The boat barely moved under my weight, stable as a dock. I unlocked the cabin door. The smell hit me first. Lemon cleaner, industrial strength, the kind that burns your nose. The interior was immaculate. Cream leather couches in the salon, not a stain or crack. Teak wood cabinets polished to a glow. The galley had stainless steel appliances that looked unused. No fingerprints, no water spots, nothing. The floor was white tile that reflected the overhead LED lights in perfect clarity. This boat looked like a showroom, like no one had ever lived here. But someone had died here. 6 weeks ago. I pulled out my Canon 5D and started shooting. Wide angle of the salon. Couch on the left, galley on the right, door to the deck straight ahead. I shot in raw format like always, best quality for the client. Click, move, click, move. The galley, close-up of the sink, the stove, the refrigerator, everything gleaming. I opened the fridge. Empty. Completely empty. Not even a smell. I checked the cabinets. No thing. No dishes, no food, no trash. David Chen lived on this boat for 2 years and left no trace. I moved toward the back, toward the master cabin. There were 2 doors, one on the left labeled "Head" in small brass letters, one straight ahead. I opened the straight door. The master cabin was larger than my bedroom in Anchorage. King-sized bed with white linens that looked freshly made. 2 portholes on either side showing gray water. A small desk built into the wall. And on the bed, a leather journal. It was brown, worn on the edges, closed with a leather strap. The only thing in this entire boat that looked used. I know I shouldn't have touched it. It wasn't my business. I was here to take photos, not investigate. But I've always been too curious for my own good. I sat on the edge of the bed and unwrapped the strap. The leather was warm, like someone had just been holding it. I opened to a random page. The date at the top said September 15th, 6 months ago. The handwriting was cramped, messy, written fast. Day 23. The boat knows what I'm planning. Every time I try to leave, the engine won't start. I turn the key, and nothing. But at 3 a.m. I hear it running. I come up to the deck and the engine is off. Keys are in my pocket, but it's warm. It runs when it wants to go where it wants. Sarah thinks I'm losing my mind. Maybe I am. My hands went cold. I flipped back toward the front. The first entry was dated March 3rd, 2 years ago. Different handwriting, neat, excited, the letters carefully formed. Finally bought my dream boat. She's perfect. 40 feet, twin diesel engines, every amenity you could want. Taking her up the inside passage tomorrow. Sarah is so happy. This is the beginning of everything we've dreamed about. I kept reading. The entries started normal. Weather observations, mechanical notes, excitement about different harbors. But within 3 weeks, the EV changed. Why do we keep ending up at the same coordinates? We programmed the GPS for Juneau, but woke up this morning and were 40 miles off course, right back at 56°47'23 and 132°5'18. That's the third time. GPS must be malfunctioning. The GPS is fine, I had it checked in Wrangell. The technician said it's working perfectly, but we keep ending up at those same coordinates, even when I don't turn on the navigation system. Sarah wants to sell the boat. I told her we can't. Every time we talk about selling, something breaks. Last time she called a broker, the engine caught fire. Small fire, contained it fast, but the timing. I tried to dock in Sitka yesterday. The boat wouldn't let me. I turned the wheel toward the slip, and the boat kept going straight, like the rudder was locked, but it wasn't locked. I checked. Everything is fine, but the boat won't go where I want it to go anymore. We belong to it now, I understand that. Sarah doesn't. She still thinks we can leave, but I've stopped trying. It's easier if you just accept it. The final entry was dated December 8th, 3 months ago. The handwriting was barely legible. Sarah jumped overboard last night. We were docked in Petersburg. Docked. Engine off, tied to the dock. But she jumped like we were at sea. She was screaming that she had to get off, that it was the only way. I watched her go under. I should have jumped with her. It's the only way off this boat. The only way. The journal fell from my hands. I heard footsteps above me, on the deck. Heavy boots walking from bow to stern, then back again. Mr. Hansen? My voice cracked. Hello? The footsteps continued. Back and forth. Back and forth. I stood up, my legs shaking. The cabin felt smaller suddenly, the portholes darker. I walked to the stairs leading up to the deck, climbed them slowly. The deck was empty. Completely empty. No one on the boat. I could see Hansen's Mercedes in the parking lot, maybe 80 yards away. No one on the dock. No one in the nearby boats. But I heard the footsteps. I still heard them. They were behind me now. I spun around. Nothing. The footsteps moved to the bow. I could hear them clearly, boot heels on fiberglass, the slight echo of weight. "Who's there?" I shouted. The footsteps stopped. The silence was worse. I needed to finish this job and leave. That's what Hansen paid me for. Photos. Just take the photos and go. I raised my camera and shot the deck, wide angle, showing the whole space. The helm with its chrome wheel, the bench seating, the railings. That's when I noticed the GPS. It was mounted at the helm, a Garmin chart plotter, the screen glowing bright blue. Active. I walked over and looked at the display. The screen showed a route, but not a normal route. It was a circle, a perfect circle, around one set of coordinates. 56D47, 23N, 132D45, and 18. W. The same coordinates from the journal. The route was plotted 200 times. The same circle, overlaid on itself 200 times, like someone had programmed it over and over and over, or like the boat had been traveling that same circle for months. I pulled out my phone and photographed the GPS screen. My hands were shaking so badly it took 3 tries to get a clear shot. That's when I heard the engine. A low rumble from below deck, the twin diesels starting up. But I had the keys. They were in my pocket. The engine got louder. The boat vibrated under my feet. I looked at the helm. The ignition was off, the key slot empty. The boat was running without keys. I grabbed my camera bag and ran. Off the deck, onto the dock, my boots hammering the wood planks. I didn't stop until I reached Hansen's Mercedes. He was standing outside his car, staring at the boat. His face was even grayer than before. "You heard it," he said. Not a question. The engine started, but I have the keys. I held them up, metal jingling. "It does that." Hansen took the keys from my hand. David Chen's autopsy showed he died of a heart attack. But the Medellin. Cal Examiner noted something unusual. David's clothes were soaking wet, salt water, and his lungs had water in them. He drowned? No, he died of a heart attack, but he had water in his lungs, like he'd been underwater. Hansen looked at me. The boat was docked right here in Petersburg when they found him. Docked. The boat hadn't left the slip in 3 weeks, according to the harbor master. But David's clothes were wet, the cabin floor was covered in salt water, and the fuel tank was completely empty. That's impossible. The fuel tank holds 500 gallons. It was full when David docked 3 weeks earlier. The boat didn't leave the slip, but somehow it burned 500 gallons of fuel. I showed him the photo on my phone, the GPS screen with its 200 repeated circles. Hansen's face went white, actually white, all the gray draining away. That's where they found debris from the original second wind. Original? This is the second boat with that name. He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo. This is the original second wind, 1985. I looked at the photo. It was the same boat. The exact same boat. Same hull design, same cabin structure, same chrome railings. Every detail identical. That boat sank in 1991, Hansen said. Thomas and Rebecca Pine owned it, along with their daughter Michelle. All three died. The Coast Guard report said the boat was found circling the same coordinates for 6 hours before it went down. Engine at full throttle. Nobody at the wheel. Like the boat was trying to drill itself into the ocean. But this boat is the same boat. Same hull identification number. It didn't sink. The report was wrong or covered up or I don't know. But David Chen bought this boat in 2023, registered it as Second Wind, and didn't know its history. The broker never told him. Maybe the broker didn't know. Maybe the boat didn't want him to know. Boats don't want things, I said. But my voice sounded uncertain even to me. Then explain the GPS, explain the fuel, explain your footsteps. Hansen got into his car. I'm withdrawing the listing, the boat would, and sell anyway. Everyone who tours it refuses to make an offer. I'll wire your payment this afternoon. Thank you for trying. He drove away, leaving me standing in that gravel parking lot, staring at Second Wind. The engine was still running. I could hear it from 80 yards away. I drove back to Anchorage that evening, took the long route, avoiding the water when I could. I stopped at the same Moose Tooth, got the same terrible coffee. My hands were still shaking. In my apartment, I uploaded the photos to my laptop. I had 87 images total. I started editing with the exterior shots. Those were fine, beautiful even. The boat looked like a magazine cover. Then I opened the interior shots. Salon, galley, bathroom, all normal. Then the master cabin. In the first photo, the journal was on the bed where I'd left it. The cabin was empty otherwise. White linens, wooden desk, 2 portholes. But in the corner, barely visible in the shadow by the starboard porthole, there was something. A shape. Translucent, like smoke, but with form. Human form. A woman. I zoomed in 400%. The image pixelated, but I could still see her. She was thin, wearing what looked like a nightgown. Her hair was wet, plastered to her face. She was staring at the camera. Staring at me. I opened the next photo, taken maybe 10 seconds later. She was closer, 3 feet closer to the camera, still in the corner, but she'd moved. Her face was clearer now. Young, maybe 30. Her mouth was open like she was screaming, but there was no sound in a photograph. Her eyes were terrified. Third photo. She was reaching toward the camera. Her arm extended, fingers spread, the image still translucent but more solid than before. Fourth photo. Her hand filled half the frame. I could see through her fingers to the bed behind her. Her palm was 6 inches from the lens. Fifth photo. Her face filled the entire frame. Her mouth saint, retched open, her eyes wide, her wet hair framing everything. I could see water dripping from her chin. I could see barnacles on her neck. Barnacles. Like she'd been underwater. Like she'd been underwater for months. I closed the laptop. I was breathing hard, my heart hammering. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Please. A woman's voice. Desperate, broken. Please help me. I'm still on the boat. I can't get off. It won't let me leave. My whole body went cold. Who is this? Sarah. Sarah Chen. You were on the boat today. I saw you. I tried to warn you, but you couldn't hear me. She was crying. Every time I try to swim to shore, I wake up in the cabin. I jump off the boat and I'm drowning, and then I'm in the cabin again. Over and over. Please, you have to help me get off this boat. Sarah, where are you right now? I'm in the cabin. I'm always in the cabin. I can see Petersburg through the porthole, but I can't reach it. I can see people walking on the dock, but they can't see me. Her voice broke into sobs. I've been here for 3 months. Please. Please help me. I don't understand how. The boat won't let me leave. It needs us. It needs people on it. David understood at the end. That's why he stopped fighting. That's why his heart gave out. He finally understood we belong to the boat now. I'll call the Coast Guard. I'll call. They can't help me. I'm not alive anymore. I jumped, remember? I drowned. But I'm still here. We're all still here. We? Thomas and Rebecca and Michelle. They're here too. They've been here since 1991. The boat keeps us. It needs us to get home. Home. The coordinates. Where Thomas first bought it. The boat was built there, launched there, and it's been trying to go back ever since. It takes people to pilot it back, but it can never make it all the way. Something always stops it. And then it needs new people to try again. Sarah, I don't know how to help you. You can't help me. Her voice changed, became harder. But I can warn you. You were on the boat. Now it knows you. It's coming, Fall. Are you too? The line went dead. I looked at my phone. The call log showed the last incoming call from Jenny Morrison. My own name. My own number had just called me. That's not possible. That can't be possible. My phone rang again. Same display. Jenny Morrison calling Jenny Morrison. I didn't answer. I let it ring. It rang for 2 minutes straight, then stopped. Immediately started ringing again. I turned off my phone. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on my couch with my laptop and researched everything I could find about second wind. The original sinking report from 1991 was online, digitized by the Coast Guard. I read it 3 times. On August 15, 1991, the Coast Guard received a distress call from a pleasure yacht named Second Wind. The caller, identified as Thomas Pine, reported that the boat's steering and throttle were unresponsive. The engine was running at full power, and the boat was circling the same position at 56 dg 4723 and 132 dg 4518. BGU. The Coast Guard dispatched a cutter. It took 4 hours to reach the coordinates. When they arrived, Second Wind was still there, still circling, engine at full throttle. But there was no one at the wheel. The Coast Guard boarded the yacht and found it empty. No sign of Thomas, Rebecca, or Michelle Pine. The boat circled for another 2 hours before the engine finally ran out of fuel. It took on water and sank within minutes. The Coast Guard searched for 3 days. They never found bodies. They never found any debris except pieces of the hull. But here's what made my blood freeze. The report included photos of the wreck. I zoomed in on one photo showing the stern before it sank. The name was clearly visible. Second Wind. The hull identification number was clearly visible. AK4782HN. I opened my photos from yesterday. I zoomed in on a shot of the stern. Hull identification number. AK4782HN. The exact same number. The boat never sank. It couldn't have. The hull numbers matched. I found the registration records. Thomas Pine purchased the boat in 1985 from a private seller in Sitka. The seller was listed as Estate of James Brennan. I searched for James Brennan, found an obituary from 1984. James Brennan, 52, died March 17, 1984, aboard his yacht Second Wind. Cause of death: drowning. Mr. Brennan was found in the master cabin, the boat docked in Sitka Harbor. Despite being docked, Mr. Brennan had salt water in his lungs. The circumstances of his death remain under investigation. The boat was older than 1985. Much older. I kept searching. Found a marine registry from 1976. Second Wind, registered to Margaret Brennan. Found her obituary from 1977. Margaret Brennan, 48, died aboard her yacht Second Wind while docked in Petersburg. Cause of death: drowning. Investigation ongoing. Petersburg, the same harbor where it's docked right now. I searched further back. The trail went cold in the 1960s, but I found a black and white photo in a Sitka newspaper from 1962. A man standing proudly next to a yacht. The caption read, "Local businessman Harold Kemp celebrates purchase of his dream boat, Second Wind, at the coordinates where she was built, 56 to G47, 23, and 132 to G45, 18W. The coordinates, the same coordinates. The boat was built there, launched there, and it's been trying to return there for over 60 years, taking every owner back, one by one, adding them to the crew." I threw my phone across the room. It rang anyway. Lying on the carpet, screen cracked, it rang. I grabbed it. "Stop calling me. You were on the boat." Sarah's voice, but different now. Multiple voices layered over hers. Thomas, Rebecca, Michelle, David, Margaret, James, Harold. All of them speaking through her. "Now you belong to us. I don't belong to anything. The boat decides. Not you. Never you." I hung up and blocked my own number. I blocked every number I could think of. I blocked unknown callers. My phone rang anyway. I smashed it against the wall. The screen shattered. The battery fell out. It rang anyway. A broken phone, lying in pieces on my floor, ringing. I grabbed the pieces and threw them in the dumpster outside my apartment building. The next week was quiet. No calls, no engines outside my window. I started to think maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe the stress, the money problems, the isolation. Maybe I'd had a breakdown. I took other jobs, shot a condo in Juneau, a cabin in Homer. Normal work, normal photos. Nothing strange. But I couldn't stop thinking about the coordinates. 56 dig 47, 23, and 1 to 32 dig 45, 18. WW. Finally, I looked them up on Google Maps. Satellite view. It was open ocean. Nothing there. Just water. But when I zoomed in as far as the image would go, I could see something. A dark shape under the water. Ship-shaped. A wreck. Something big. Not Second Wind. Something older. Something the boat was built from, or built to replace. The boat was trying to go home. Trying to sink. Trying to join whatever was waiting at those coordinates. And it needed people to pilot it there. I bought a new phone, new number. Unlisted. It rang the same day I activated it. "Hello, Jenny," Sarah's voice. "We've been waiting." "How did you get this number?" The boat knows. It always knows. I hung up, changed my number again, and again, and again. It didn't matter. The boat always found me. Last week I found keys in my purse, keys I'd never seen before. They had a brass tag, Second Wind, Slip 12, Petersburg. I threw them in the ocean off the Seward dock, watched them sink into the black water. Yesterday they were in my purse again. Same keys, same tag. The salt water hadn't even dried. This morning I woke up and my car was packed. My camera equipment in the back, my overnight bag in the passenger seat. My GPS was on, showing a route to Petersburg. I didn't pack these things. I went to bed in Anchorage and woke up ready for a trip I didn't plan. I'm sitting in my apartment right now, Rye. Ting this. It's 6 a.m. My hands are shaking. The keys are on my kitchen table, and I keep staring at them. Because I know what's going to happen. Eventually, today, tomorrow, next week, I'm going to pick up those keys. I'm going to get in my Subaru. I'm going to drive to Petersburg. I'm going to board Second Wind one more time. And when I do, I'll finally understand what Sarah understood, what David understood, what Thomas and Rebecca and Michelle and James and Margaret and Harold understood. The boat doesn't take you where you want to go. It takes you where it needs to be. I'll pilot Second Wind back to those coordinates. I'll join the others in the cabin, waiting, and the boat will find a new photographer, a new real estate agent, a new owner who needs $500 for rent and new tires. The cycle will continue. Because Second Wind has been trying to get home for 60 years, and home is at the bottom of the ocean. I can hear an engine outside my apartment right now. It's 6 a.m. and I hear a boat engine, rumbling steady and patient. I look out my window. There's no water. I'm 3 miles from the coast, but I hear it anyway. The keys are warm in my hand. I don't remember picking them up. My car is running outside. I don't remember starting it. The drive to Petersburg takes 3 hours. I think I should leave now. The boat is waiting. This story was found on Jenny Morrison's laptop by her landlord after she failed to pay rent for 2 months. Jenny's Subaru was found in the Petersburg Harbor parking lot on March 28th. The boat, Second Wind, remains docked in Slip 12. The harbor master reports the engine starts on its own at 3 a.m. every morning, running for exactly 3 hours before shutting off. No one has been aboard since Jenny Morrison. The boat remains for sale. The asking price is $85,000. The listing agent is still accepting offers. My name is Owen Brackman, and I've been running charter fishing boats out of Seward, Alaska for 12 years. I grew up on these waters. My dad taught me every fishing spot from Resurrection Bay to the outer Gulf before I could drive a car. I've got my captain's license, commercial fishing endorsement, and I've taken out everyone from Japanese businessmen to Hollywood actors. I've handled drunk clients, boat fires, rogue waves, and medical emergencies 40 miles offshore. I thought I'd seen everything the ocean could throw at me. But what happened last July during peak tourist season showed me that some things stay hidden underwater for a reason. Some debts the ocean never forgives. And some stories are true, no matter how much you want them to be legends. The elders in Seward have a saying, "The water keeps what it takes." My dad told me that when I was 8, after a fishing boat went down with all hands. Old Simon Kusakov, a Sugpiok elder who used to repair nets down at the harbor, told me something else when I bought my boat. He said there are places in the Gulf where the water is darker than it should be, where fish won't bite, where your compass spins lazy circles. He said those are places where something went wrong, where someone broke a promise to the ocean. Stay away from the dark water, he said. It's always hungry. I thought he was just telling stories. Old fisherman's superstition. I was wrong. It was July 28th, a Thursday. The day started perfect. One of those rare Alaska summer mornings where the water looks like polished glass and the mountains are so clear you can count the valleys. I had 4 guys from Texas booked for an all-day halibut charter. They'd paid premium rates, $1,500, wanted to go out far where the big fish live. Dale was the loud one, mid-40s, big gut, bigger laugh, wearing a brand new fishing vest with the tags Chasseur still on it. He kept calling me captain in a way that let me know he thought it was funny. Ray was quieter, nervous hands, kept checking his phone even though I'd told them there's no service 40 miles out. The other 2, brothers named Kyle and Sean, were already drinking Coors Light at 6 in the morning. We left the harbor at dawn, my boat Lucky Strike, cutting through the calm water, the Texans already talking loud about 300-pound halibut and who was going to catch the biggest one. They smelled like sunscreen and hotel soap and beer. They had no idea what the ocean was really like out here. Nobody does until they see it. I took them to my best spot, 40 miles out. Coordinates I'd been using for 8 years. 59°51 on N, 149°42 to W. Underwater plateau 200 feet deep where the big halibut hang out in the current waiting for food to drift by. My depth finder showed the bottom clearly. That familiar rocky shelf, the drop-off to the east, the flat sandy area to the west. My GPS confirmed the coordinates. Everything looked exactly like it always did. We set up, dropped lines, and within 10 minutes everyone was catching fish. Good-sized halibut, 40 to 70 pounds, their white bellies flashing as we hauled them up, eyes bulging from the pressure change. The cooler was filling up fast. The Texans were happy. I was happy. Easy money. Then Dale hooked something big. His rod bent completely double, tip nearly touching the water, lines screaming off the reel so fast I thought it would snap. The drag was squealing. Dale's face went red as he fought it, feet braced against the rail, muscles shaking. "Holy shit!" Kyle yelled. "That's a monster!" Dale fought it for 20 minutes. His hands were bleeding where the line had cut into his palms through his gloves. Sweat poured down his face. Ray started filming on his phone. I was thinking maybe Dale got lucky. Hooked a barn door halibut, one of those 150-pounders that you see maybe once a season. When it finally came to the surface, my stomach dropped. It wasn't a fish, it was a metal. Lockbox, maybe 2 feet long, covered in barnacles and rust and something else. A kind of black slime that smelled like decay and copper. Thick chain was wrapped around it, snagged on Dale's hook. The smell hit me first, not just rust and seawater, something organic, something rotten underneath. I grabbed my gaff and pulled it aboard. It hit the deck with a heavy thud that I felt through my boots. Water pooled around it, but the water was wrong. Too dark, almost oily, and it didn't move right. It just sat there in a perfect circle. "What the hell?" Dale said, staring at the box. His voice had changed. The cocky tone was gone. "I thought I had a monster." The box was old, corroded from years underwater, but intact. A padlock held it shut, rusty, but still locked. The metal had that pitted texture you only get from decades in salt water. There was writing on the side, mostly worn away, but I could make out 2 letters, P and R. The Texans crowded around it immediately. "Dude, it's treasure," Kyle said. "Open it." My hands were shaking. I couldn't stop staring at those 2 letters. "Throw it back," I told them. My voice came out hoarse. "What? Are you crazy?" "I'm serious. Throw it back. Right now." Dale laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. "Bad luck? Come on, man, we're not superstitious." "I am," I said. "And you should be too. Throw it back." But I already knew they wouldn't. I could see it in their eyes. That greedy curiosity, that American confidence that nothing bad could really happen. Not to them, not on vacation. Dale grabbed a wrench from my toolbox. The padlock broke off easy, metal brittle from corrosion. When it fell to the deck, it made a sound like a bell. Inside were papers, all waterlogged and stuck together. And underneath, wrapped in thick plastic that had somehow stayed intact, were stacks of money. $100 bills banded together, maybe 5,000, and dollars worth. The Texans went crazy, whooping and high-fiving, but I barely heard them. I was carefully pulling the papers apart with shaking hands. They were boat registration documents. The vessel name was printed at the top, ink faded but still readable. Prosperity. Registration dated April 1998. Home port, Seward, Alaska. My mouth went dry. Everyone who fishes out of Seward knows about the Prosperity. It's the story people tell in bars when the weather's too bad to go out. The warning story, the one that's supposed to teach you something. 3 crew members vanished with that boat 27 years ago. James Walsh, David Corona, and Miguel Torres. Big Coast Guard search, helicopters, boats, divers. Nothing ever found. The official story was engine failure, sudden storm, tragic accident. But everyone knew the real story. The Prosperity was running cocaine up from Mexico, making drops along the coast. $2.3 million in cartel money disappeared with them. The theory was the crew stole it and tried to run. But you can't run from cartels, and you can't run from the ocean. "Put it back," I said quietly. "Put everything back in the box right now." "No way, man," Dale said. He was holding the money, fanning through it. "Finders keepers. We hooked it, it's ours. That money doesn't belong to you. Doesn't belong to anyone. Been down there for what, 30 years? It's salvage, Captain." He grinned at me, and I wanted to hit him. "Fine. I said. My voice was shaking. But the box stays on my boat, and we're done fishing here. We're leaving. They grumbled, but agreed. I made them put the money back in the box. I sealed it as best I could and shoved it in my equipment locker. My hands left prints in that black slime. We dropped lines again. I told them we'd fish on the way back in, make up for the lost time. But I needed to get away from this spo. Something felt wrong. The air felt thicker. The light looked strange. Nothing bit. Not for an hour. Lines came up empty every time, not even bait stolen. In 8 years fishing this spot, I'd never had that happen. Not once. The fish here were so thick you could practically catch them with your hands. My depth finder started acting strange. The screen would show the bottom clearly at 200 feet, then suddenly show something massive directly underneath us, then nothing again, then something again. The image kept flickering, like something was moving down there, something that shouldn't exist. I checked the sonar. There was a shape on the screen, big as a boat, sitting on the bottom directly below us. I stared at that sonar screen. I'd fished this exact spot hundreds of times. There was no wreck there. The bottom was clear. I'd snagged on rocks before, but there were no boat-sized objects on that plateau. I marked the location on my GPS and turned the key to start the engine. It turned over, coughed, then died. I tried again. The starter motor whined. The engine caught for half a second, then nothing. Battery was fully charged, showing 12.8 volts. Fuel tank 3/4 full. I'd just serviced the engine 2 weeks ago. Everything looked perfect. "What's wrong?" Dale asked. The cocky tone was completely gone now. "Not sure. I checked every connection, every wire, every fuse. I bled the fuel line. I checked the spark plugs. Everything looked perfect. The engine just wouldn't run." I radioed the Coast Guard on Channel 16. "Coast Guard, Coast Guard, Coast Guard. This is fishing vessel, Lucky Strike, over." Static then. "Fishing vessel, Lucky Strike. This is Coast Guard Kodiak. Go ahead." "Coast Guard, I'm 40 miles south-southwest of Seward, having engine trouble, requesting assistance, over." "Copy that, Lucky Strike. Can you anchor your position?" "Affirmative, anchoring now." "Help is 90 minutes out. Can you maintain your position?" "Affirmative. Lucky Strike, out." 90 minutes. The sun was still high, weather still perfect, but I felt cold. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. "This is because of that box," Dale said. He was staring at me, his face pale. "You're trying to scare us." I didn't answer. I kept working on the engine, checking things I'd already checked because I needed to do something with my hands. Then Ray said, "What is that?" His voice was completely flat. Dead. The voice of someone whose brain has stopped processing what their eyes are seeing. He was pointing at the water, his hand shaking. We all looked. Something was rising from below. The depth finder was going insane. Numbers climbing fast, 200 feet, 175, 150. The alarm was beeping, that high-pitched warning that meant something was wrong with the readings, but I knew it wasn't a malfunction. I could see it through the clear water. A dark shape, ascending, straight up, directly toward us, fast. "Owen," Dale whispered. Just my name, like a prayer. The shape got bigger, 100 feet below us now. I could make out details. A hull, a cabin, rigging, a boat covered in barnacles and sea growth and that black slime, but intact. Rising impossibly fast, like it was being pulled up by invisible cables. It broke the surface 50 feet away. Water poured off the deck in thick sheets. The hull was covered in barnacles so thick they looked like scales. The metal was streaked with rust, and that black substance that wasn't quite rust, wasn't quite algae. Every porthole was dark. The boat sat perfectly level in the water, floating, engine silent. I could read the name on the bow, letters still visible through the growth. Prosperity. No one spoke. The only sound was water dripping from the Prosperity's rigging, hitting the ocean surface with soft splashes that seemed too loud in the silence. The boat drifted slowly toward us. No wind, no current, just drifting in a straight line, aimed at us. "How is that possible?" "Ibel?" Dale whispered. It should be full of water. How is it floating? I backed away from the rail. The Prosperity bumped against my boat. When the hulls touched, I felt it through the deck. Felt it in my bones. Wrong vibration, wrong frequency, like touching something that wasn't entirely physical. Then I heard them. Footsteps. Below deck on the Prosperity. Heavy boots on metal floors, walking slow and deliberate. 3 sets of footsteps. I could tell there were 3 because they weren't in sync. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Getting closer. Did you hear that? Ray whispered. We all heard it. The Texans had backed against the opposite rail. Sean was crying without making any sound, tears just running down his face. The footsteps reached the stairs, started climbing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Taking their time. A man emerged from the cabin. He was wearing a yellow fishing jacket, the kind with reflective stripes, jeans, rubber boots. He looked maybe 40 years old. His skin was gray, not the gray of death, but the gray of something that's been underwater so long it's become part of the ocean. His face was bloated, swollen, but intact. When he smiled at us, I saw his teeth through a hole in his cheek the size of a quarter. The hole went all the way through. I could see his tongue moving behind his teeth. He raised one hand in a slow wave. His fingers were webbed with something that looked like tissue or skin, connecting them together. 2 more crew members came up behind him. The second man was shorter, Hispanic, missing his left ear. The hole where it should have been was just smooth gray skin. He was smiling too, a wide smile that showed all his teeth. The third was tall, thin, black, with dreadlocks that moved even though there was no wind. His eyes were completely white. No iris, no pupil, just white like cataracts. But I could tell he was looking at us. I could feel his gaze. They stood on the deck of the Prosperity, perfectly still, perfectly balanced, even though the boat was rocking gently. Water dripped from their clothes, that bekia. Axe slime oozed from their boots, running across the deck. Owen, Dale said. His voice cracked. Owen, what the fuck is that? I couldn't speak. My throat was closed. I was staring at the first man, at that hole in his cheek, and I knew that I was looking at James Walsh, the captain of the Prosperity. Dead for 27 years, standing 10 feet away from me, smiling. Dale made a choking sound. He ran to my equipment locker, yanked out the lockbox and threw it over the rail. It hit the water and sank immediately. Take it back, he screamed. Take it, we don't want it, we never touched it. But he was lying. We all knew he was lying. He'd held the money, counted it, laughed about it. The ocean knows when you're lying. The 3 crew members watched the box disappear. Their heads moved in unison, tracking it down through the water. When it was gone, they looked back at us. James Walsh, the one with the hole in his cheek, raised his hand again. This time, he wasn't waving. He was pointing at Dale, then at Ray, then at Kyle, then at Sean, then at me. His finger lingered on me. His smile got wider. That tongue moved behind his teeth, gray and swollen. Then, in perfect unison, they turned and walked back into the cabin, disappeared below deck. Their footsteps descended the stairs. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, getting quieter. The Prosperity started sinking, not slowly, fast. Water poured in through the portholes, through gaps in the hull I couldn't see. The bow tilted forward, the stern rose up. I could see the propeller, covered in barnacles, still dripping. In 30 seconds it was gone, just bubbles on the surface, popping quietly, and that black slime floating in patches. My engine started immediately. First turn of the key. It roared to life like nothing had been wrong. I didn't wait for the Coast Guard. I radioed them, told them engine was running, keys, and cancelled the assistance request. Then I opened the throttle all the way and ran for Seward. The Lucky Strike pounded across the flat water at 20 knots. Behind me, the Texan said, nothing. Dale was crying. Ray was throwing up over the side. Kyle was praying, hands clasped, lips moving. Sean was just staring at the deck, at the water we'd brought aboard from the Prosperity. The dark water. It wasn't evaporating. It was just sitting there in puddles that didn't move. 2 hours back to Seward. 2 hours of silence except for the engine and the wind and Ray vomiting and Dale crying. When we docked, I refunded their money, all $1,500. I told them to forget what they saw. "How?" Dale asked. His voice was hoarse from screaming. "How do we forget that?" "I don't know," I said. "But don't tell anyone. They won't believe you, and telling makes it real." They left immediately, practically running to their rental car. I watched them drive away. I never heard from them again. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing James Walsh's face, that hole in his cheek, his finger pointing at me, marking me. I researched the Prosperity case, found old news articles from 1998, found photos of the crew, James Walsh, David Corona, Miguel Torres. The photos matched the faces I'd seen, exactly, down to James Walsh's stubble and Miguel Torres's dreadlocks. $2.3 million in cartel money was never recovered. The official theory was the crew had stolen it from a drug shipment and tried to run, but the cartel found them first, killed them, scuttled the boat with their bodies inside. But there was another theory, one that only got mentioned in one article from a local paper. An old fisherman named Simon Kusakov, the same man who'd warned me about dark water, told the reporter that the crew had made a deal, traded their lives for the money, not with the cartel, with the ocean itself. "The ocean don't take money," Simon told the reporter, "but it takes promises, and they promised to guard that money forever. That was the deal. That's why they're stay. L down there." The article was from July 1998. Simon Kusakov died 3 months later. Heart attack. He was found on his boat tied up at the dock, hands frozen around the wheel. His boat was full of salt water even though it hadn't rained. The water came from inside. I stopped taking charters to that area. Told other captains there was a gear snag problem, bad rocks on the bottom. Most avoided it. But some didn't know the story, and some didn't believe. Every few years I hear about it. A charter boat has engine trouble in that area. Tourists who come back looking pale and shaking. Captains who swear they saw something surface but can't describe it, like the memory slides away when they try to talk about it. Someone always hooks something heavy. They pull up a lockbox, and the Prosperity rises one more time. I quit charter fishing last month. Couldn't do it anymore. Sold the Lucky Strike to a guy from Juneau who doesn't know these waters. I moved to Fairbanks, 360 miles from the ocean, as far inland as Alaska allows. But the money followed me. I found the first bill 3 days after I moved. A wet $100 bill in my wallet, tucked between my credit cards. I'd never seen it before. It smelled like salt water and that copper decay smell. When I tried to throw it away, it was back in my wallet the next morning. Yesterday I found 2 bills in my jacket pocket, the jacket I'd worn on the boat that day. They were soaking wet, leaving dark stains on the fabric. This morning there were 5 in my mailbox, mixed in with my dry mail, making everything wet. I think when I pulled that lockbox aboard, some of that dark water touched my hand. Maybe that was enough. Maybe I took something after all, even if I didn't mean to. The ocean doesn't care about intentions. The crew of the Prosperity knows. Last night I saw them for the first time in Fairbank. As I was brushing my teeth, looking in the bathroom mirror, and there they were, standing behind me. James Walsh, David Corona, Miguel Torres, gray skin, empty eyes, dripping water onto my bathroom floor. I spun around. Nobody there. Looked back in the mirror. They were still there, behind my reflection, not moving. I see them everywhere now. In windows, in my phone screen when it's dark, in puddles on the street, always behind me. Always the same distance away, always dripping. They're patient. They've been dead for 27 years. They can wait. This morning I found something new. Not money. A key. Old brass key covered in barnacles, sitting on my kitchen table. I don't know what it opens, but I know where it came from. There's a lockbox somewhere with my name on it now. The ocean is preparing it, adding my promise to their promise. My debt to their debt. I looked up flights to Mexico today, thought about running. But where would I go? The ocean is everywhere. It touches every coast, It rains from the sky. It's in the water I drink. Last night, in the puddle they left on my bathroom floor, I saw something reflected that wasn't in the room. A boat. The Prosperity. Floating in deep water, lights on in the cabin. James Walsh was on deck, looking up at me through the puddle, smiling with that hole in his cheek. He pointed at the water, inviting me down. I understand now. The money in my wallet isn't payment, it's a deposit, a down payment on what I owe. Tomorrow, I'm driving back to Seward. I'm taking my father's old boat out, the one I learned to fish on, the one that's been in our family for 40 years. I'm going back to those coordinates, 59 degree and 41N, 149 degree 42. W. The dark water. I'm going to drop anchor and wait. Eventually, the Prosperity will rise. Its crew will come to collect. Maybe if I go willingly, they'll leave my father's boat alone, leave my family alone. Maybe the ocean will be satisfied. Or maybe I'll join them. Maybe I'll walk those metal decks forever in the cold and dark, guarding money I can never spend, pointing at finders who think they're lucky, watching them realize too late that some treasures carry a price that compounds forever. My dad told me the ocean keeps what it takes. He was right. I'm writing this at 3 a.m. in my apartment in Fairbanks. There's water dripping from my ceiling even though there's no leak. It's collecting in pools on the floor. Dark water. The kind that doesn't evaporate. When I look down at those pools, I see faces looking back up at me. 4 faces now. Walsh, Corona, Torres, and me. I'm already down there. I just don't know it yet. My name is Monica Chen, and I've been running cargo barges along the Alaskan coast for 4 years. Before this, I worked on fishing boats for 6 years, learning every inch of these waters from Kodiak to the Aleutians. I've hauled everything from building supplies to fuel drums, weathered storms that would terrify most people, and navigated through fog so thick I couldn't see my own bow. I love this job, the independence, the quiet, just me and the endless ocean. But what happened on August 28, 2019, about 40 miles southeast of Kodiak Island, made me question everything I thought I knew about what lives in these waters. I operate a 65-foot cargo barge called the Northern Supply. She's nothing fancy, a flat-bottomed workhorse with a 300-horsepower diesel engine that can push 400 tons of cargo at 8 knots in calm seas. The wheelhouse sits forward, giving me a clear view of the deck and the water ahead. My radio setup includes VHF marine channels, emergency frequencies, and a satellite phone for when I'm out of radio range. I've got GPS navigation, radar, and all the safety equipment required by the Coast Guard. Most importantly, I know these waters like they're my own backyard. That Tuesday started perfect. Clear skies, calm seas, unlimited visibility. I'd loaded up in Kodiak with a month's worth of supplies for Akiak, food, fuel, construction materials, everything a village of 80 people needs to get through September. The manifest showed 47 tons of cargo, well within my limits. Weather reports promised smooth sailing for the next 48 hours. I cast off at 11 a.m., expecting to reach Akiak by 6 p.m. The first 3 hours were routine. I kept the engine at 3/4 throttle, making good time across Shelikof Strait. The water was so calm it looked like dark glass. I had my coffee, some country music playing low, and I was thinking about the bonus I'd get for completing this run early. The GPS showed I was right on course, making 7.8 knots with a slight following current. Everything was exactly as it should be. At 2:47 p.m., my radio crackled to life. The transmission was broken, full of static, but I caught fragments. Mayday, Mayday, this is Sea Ranger. Taking on water. Then coordinates. Partial ones, cut off by interference. After that, nothing but dead air. I tried responding immediately. Sea Ranger, this is Northern Supply. Please repeat your position. Silence. I tried 3 more times, switching to emergency frequency 2182. No response. Maritime law is clear. If you hear a distress call and you're able to help, you investigate. I marked the approximate position based on what I'd heard. It was about 12 miles off my direct route to Akiak. I changed course toward the coordinates and radioed the Coast Guard station in Kodiak. Coast Guard, this is Northern Supply. I've received a distress call from fishing vessel Sea Ranger, investigating possible emergency at position. I gave them my best estimate of the coordinates. The response came back within minutes. Northern Supply, Coast Guard Kodiak. We're launching a rescue helicopter, but we're 4 hours out due to weather at base. If you can safely investigate, please do so and report. I pushed the throttle forward, gaining another knot of speed. The coordinates put the Sea Ranger about 35 minutes away at my current pace. I kept trying to raise them on the radio, but got nothing except static. When I spotted the boat, my heart sank. The Sea Ranger was a 58-foot fishing trawler and she was listing hard to port, her deck already awash. No signs of life, no crew visible, no life rafts deployed, but she was clearly going down. The name on her stern was barely visible above the waterline. I brought the Northern Supply alongside as close as I dared, through, over bumpers, and tied up with dock lines. "Hello? Anyone aboard?" I called out. Nothing. The silence was wrong. Even an abandoned boat has sounds, creaking, water movement. This was dead, quiet. I grabbed my marine radio, a flashlight, and climbed aboard the Sea Ranger. The deck was wrong immediately. Dark stains everywhere, not rust, not fish blood from normal cleaning. This was different, dried, dark red, splattered across the wheelhouse windows, the deck planking, even up on the rigging. Way too much blood for a normal fishing accident. My hands started shaking as I followed the blood trail toward the wheelhouse. The door was hanging open. Inside, the radio was completely smashed, not just damaged, but destroyed like someone had taken a sledgehammer to it. Charts were torn down, instruments broken, the steering wheel bent. On the navigation table, I found the ship's logbook. The leather cover was stained with the same dark blood. I opened it with trembling fingers and flipped to the last entry. Day 6, August 27th, 3:20 a.m. It got inside. Killed Martinez in the engine room. Me and Davidson are hiding in the freezer. It knows we're here. If anyone finds this, don't bring whatever we caught back to shore. Kill it or leave it here. I flipped back through the previous entries, my heart pounding harder with each page. Day 5, August 26th. Andrews is dead. Found him in the fish hold, torn apart like something played with him. We can hear it moving below deck at night. It's hunting us. Day 4, August 25th. The thing is somewhere on the boat. We saw it in the galley around midnight. Davidson says it looked at him. Actually looked at him and smiled. We should have thrown it back. Day 3, August 24th. Something's wrong with what we caught. It's not dead, moved from the ice hold to somewhere else. We can't find it. Day 2, August 23rd. Brought up something strange in the net around 2 p.m. Not like any fish I've seen. Captain says it might be worth something to researchers. Big mistake. I dropped the logbook, backing away from the navigation tab. Below deck, I heard something. A metallic scraping sound, like claws on steel. Something large was moving in the lower compartments. I ran for the rail where I'd tied up my barge. The rope was tangled, caught on something. I pulled frantically, trying to free the line while listening to the sounds below getting closer. Heavy footsteps, getting louder. Something crashed in the cabin behind me. Furniture being thrown around. I could hear breathing now, deep and ragged. Definitely not human. The rope came free just as the engine room hatch burst open. I jumped onto my barge and hit the starter. The engine turned over once, twice. Come on. On the third try, it caught. I looked back through the Sea Ranger's porthole and saw movement inside. Something massive, covered in dark, matted fur. It filled the entire doorway of the cabin. I gunned the engine, pulling away from the sinking trawler as fast as my old diesel could manage. When I looked back, there was a figure standing on the Sea Ranger's deck. 8 feet tall, broad shoulders, but the proportions were all wrong. It was covered in thick, dark fur like a bear, but it stood perfectly upright. Its arms hung down past its knees, and its head was too large for its body. The thing just stood there watching me leave. Didn't move, didn't make any sound, just watched as the trawler sank beneath its feet. "Coast Guard, Coast Guard," I screamed into my radio. "There's something on that boat. It killed the crew. It killed them." "Northern Supply, Coast Guard Kodiak. Please clarify your situation. Are you injured?" "There's a creature on the Sea Ranger. It's in the water now. It's following me." I could hear the skepticism in the dispatcher's voice. "Northern Supply, have you been drinking today? Are you feeling disoriented?" I turned back to look at the Sea Ranger. It was gone, completely underwater. But the Creator was in the water now, swimming with powerful strokes, moving fast toward my barge. I could see its wake cutting through the calm surface. My barge can only do 8 knots at full throttle. This thing was faster, much faster. I looked around desperately for anything to defend myself, found a flare gun in the emergency kit, loaded it with shaking hands. The creature surfaced about 50 feet behind me. Its head was massive, like a cross between a human and an ape, but wrong in every way. The eyes were too intelligent, too focused. I fired the flare. It hit the water right next to the thing, and it dove out of sight. For a moment I thought I'd scared it off. Then my barge shuddered violently. Something had hit the hull from below, hard enough to shift my cargo. The steel containers slid across the deck, and I had to grab the wheelhouse railing to keep from falling. Another impact, harder this time. I could hear metal tearing somewhere below the waterline. The creature was ramming my barge, trying to sink it. I grabbed my satellite phone and dialed Coast Guard Emergency Direct. "This is Monica Chen on the Northern Supply. I'm under attack. Something is ramming my boat." A third impact sent me to my knees. Water was coming in somewhere. I could feel the barge starting to list. My cargo was shifting dangerously, thousands of pounds of supplies sliding toward the low side. I had one chance. There was an emergency kayak strapped to the deck, part of my required safety equipment. I cut it loose with my rigging knife and threw it overboard, then jumped in after it. The icy water hit me like a shock. I pulled myself into the kayak and started paddling as hard as I could. Behind me, my barge was going down fast, the cargo containers sliding into the water. The creature surfaced near my sinking barge. It climbed onto the tilting deck like it was claiming a prize, riding the boat down as it disappeared beneath the waves. I was 40 miles from shore in a kayak, watching my livelihood sink into the depths. My arms burned as I paddled, but I didn't stop. A Coast Guard helicopter found me 90 minutes later, nearly dead from hypothermia. They searched the area for hours, found debris from both boats, but no bodies, no creature, nothing to back up my story. The official report said I'd suffered a panic attack after seeing a bear on the sinking trawler and abandoned my vessel unnecessarily. My employer fired me for abandoning the cargo. The insurance company denied my claim, calling it negligence. No one would hire me after that. I became known as the woman who freaked out and sank her own barge. I moved to Anchorage, took a minimum wage job in retail, but I kept following the maritime reports. 2 months later, another fishing boat was found drifting empty, crew missing, blood everywhere. The Coast Guard ruled it piracy, even though nothing was stolen. I found online forums where other mariners talk in code about the big one in the water. I'm not the only one who's seen it. There are dozens of sightings over 30 years, all suppressed, all dismissed. The pattern is clear. It takes boats one at a time, kills the crew, sinks the vessel, moves to the next hunting ground. I tried warning boats in areas where I predicted it would strike next. They thought I was crazy. 3 weeks later, a supply boat went missing in the exact spot I'd warned them about. I stopped trying to warn people. No one listens to the crazy woman who lost a barge. I just watch the news now, count the missing boats, and wait. Someday it will attack the wrong vessel, and someone will kill it or capture it. Then everyone will know I was telling the truth. Until then, I live with what I saw. Sometimes I dream I'm back in that kayak, paddling in the dark water, and I feel something huge glide beneath me so close I could touch it. I always wake up screaming. My name is Ray Patterson, and I've been fixing boats in Sitka, Alaska for 15 years. I run a small marine repair shop down by the harbor where I work on everything from fishing boats to fancy yachts. I learned the trade from my dad, who taught me that every boat has a story, and most of them are good stories about families and adventures on the water. I've pulled engines out of boats that were sinking, fixed hulls that got scraped on rocks, and helped people get back out on the water when they thought their boat was done for. I love what I do because I'm good at it, and because helping people stay safe on the water feels important. But what happened 2 months ago changed everything I thought I knew about what lives in these waters. Sometimes the ocean gives back things that should have stayed lost. It was a Tuesday morning in late September when I got the call from Coastal Salvage. Jerry, the owner, said they'd towed in a derelict yacht that had been drifting for weeks. The Coast Guard found it about 40 miles out, no owner aboard, and they needed someone to look it over and see if it was worth fixing up for resale. This kind of work pays well, so I told Jerry I'd be down that afternoon to take a look. The weather that day was typical for fall in Sitka: gray skies, light rain, and a cold wind coming off the water. The harbor was quiet except for the sound of rigging clanging on the fishing boats and the occasional seal barking from the docks. I'd been working alone in my shop all morning, rebuilding a carburetor for a salmon trawler, when Jerry called. My shop sits right on the water, a converted warehouse with big bay doors that let me work on engines while watching the boats come and go. I keep my tools organized and my workspace clean because good work requires good habits, and I've built my reputation on doing things right the first time. When I got to the salvage yard, I could see the yacht tied up at the far dock. Even from a distance, something looked wrong about it. The Nomad was about 35 feet long, a nice Catalina that probably cost someone a lot of money when it was new. But now the white fiberglass hull was stained and scratched, the windows were broken, and the deck looked like a tornado had hit it. Jerry met me at the gate with the paperwork. Owner was some tech guy from California, he said, lighting a cigarette. Brandon Chen, 35 years old. Rich kid with too much money and not enough sense, if you ask me. Took off on a solo sailing trip 2 months ago and never made it home. Coast Guard's been looking for him, but they figure he went overboard somewhere. I walked down the dock toward the Nomad, carrying my tool bag and a clipboard for taking notes. The closer I got, the worse the boat looked. The scratches on the hull weren't just scrapes from normal wear and tear. They were deep gouges that went right through the gel coat and into the fiberglass underneath. But what really caught my attention was the pattern. Most boat damage happens when you hit something or something hits you. These scratches looked different. They started wide at the waterline and got narrower as they went up, like something with claws had been trying to climb up the side of the boat. I tied my skiff to the Nomad's stern and climbed aboard. The deck was a mess of broken glass, torn canvas, and rope that had been cut rather than untied. The cockpit cushions were shredded, and there were more of those strange scratches on the cabin top. I called out, "Hello, anyone aboard?" just to be safe. But there was no answer, except the sound of water lapping against the hull. The main hatch was standing open, so I climbed down into the cabin. What I saw down there made me stop cold. The place was destroyed. The settee cushions were ripped apart with stuffing scattered everywhere. The galley cabinets hung open, and dishes were smashed on the floor. But it wasn't the mess that bothered me. It was how the mess was made. Furniture doesn't just tear apart like that from waves or wind. The tears in the upholstery were too clean, too deliberate. They looked like claw marks. I started in the engine compartment because that's what I know best. The Yanmar diesel looked fine. No obvious damage, oil levels good, belts tight. I checked the fuel tank and found it still had about a quarter tank of diesel. The engine would probably start right up if someone needed it to. The electrical system looked intact too, though some of the wiring had been pulled loose. This wasn't mechanical failure or storm damage. Someone or something had been tearing things apart down here. In the forward cabin, I found Brandon Chen's laptop computer sitting on what was left of the dining table. It was wet and corroded from salt spray, but it was a good brand and might still work if I could dry it out properly. I slipped it into my tool bag to take back to the shop. Sometimes insurance companies want to know what happened, and computers can tell stories that people can't. The galley was where things got really strange. All the food containers had been opened and emptied. Cans of soup and vegetables were torn open. Not with a can opener, but like someone had used their fingernails or teeth. Boxes of crackers and cereal were ripped apart and the contents scattered. But there was other stuff too. In the sink and on the counter I found piles of small bones. Fish bones mostly, but also bird bones, and what looked like the skeleton of a seal pup. They were picked completely clean, not a scrap of meat left on them. I took photos of everything with my phone and made notes on my clipboard. Whatever had happened here, it happened after Brandon Chen disappeared. Someone or something had been living on this boat, eating whatever they could catch, and they weren't being careful about cleaning up. The head was the worst part, the toilet was backed up and disgusting, but that wasn't what got to me. The drain in the small sink was completely clogged with hair. Long black hair that felt coarse and thick when I pulled some of it out with the needle-nose pliers. It wasn't human hair. I've cleaned enough drains to know the difference. This was more like horsehair, or maybe from a seal, but there was so much of it that it must have taken weeks to accumulate. I bagged samples of the hair and took more photos. By then it was getting late and the light was fading, so I locked up the boat and headed back to my shop. I had enough information for a preliminary report, but I wanted to see if I could get that laptop working. Sometimes the real story is in the electronics. Back at my shop, I set up the laptop on my workbench next to a space heater and a fan. The trick with water-damaged electronics is to dry them out completely before you try to power them up. I pulled the battery and used compressed air to blow out as much moisture as I could, then let it sit under the heat for a couple hours while I finished up the carburetor job I'd been working on that morning. Around 9 o'clock, I tried powering up the laptop. It took 3 tries, but eventually the screen flickered to life. Most of the files were corrupted, but there was one video file that seemed intact. It was dated September 18th, the day before Brandon Chen was reported missing. I clicked on it and waited for it to load. The video showed Brandon sitting in the Nomad's cabin, but it looked different than it did now. Everything was clean and undamaged. Brandon looked scared, though, really scared. His hands were shaking as he held the camera, and he kept looking over his shoulder like he expected something to sneak up on him. "If anyone finds this," he whispered, "you need to know what happened, and you need to know not to help her. Don't bring her, Abba. Board your boat. She's not human." He went on to explain that 3 days earlier, he'd found someone in the water. A woman, floating face down about 20 miles north of Sitka. She was naked and looked like she was dead from hypothermia, but when he pulled her aboard, she was still breathing. He wrapped her in blankets and tried to give her food and water, but she wouldn't speak. She just stared at him with completely black eyes. On the second day, Brandon said, I woke up and found her in the galley, eating raw fish from my bait cooler. Not just eating it, tearing it apart with her teeth and swallowing it whole. When I tried to talk to her, she ran and hid somewhere in the boat. The video got shakier as Brandon continued. He said that on the third night, he woke up to find her standing over his bunk, sniffing him like an animal. When he moved, she scrambled away so fast he couldn't see where she went. Since then, he'd been hearing her moving around the boat at night, scratching at things, making clicking sounds like a dolphin or whale. I tried to make it back to port, Brandon said, but every time I start the engine, she goes crazy. She scratches at the walls and makes these horrible noises. I think she's afraid of the engine noise, or maybe she doesn't want to go back to land. Then Brandon held up a piece of paper, a pencil sketch he'd drawn. My blood went cold when I saw it. The figure in the drawing looked human from a distance, but the proportions were all wrong. The arms were too long and the fingers had too many joints. The face was gaunt with huge black eyes and no visible nose. The body was thin, but the muscles in the arms and legs looked powerful, like something built for swimming or climbing. She's scratching at the door again, Brandon whispered. I've been hiding in here for 6 hours, but I can't keep her out much longer. If you find this video, you need to know that she pretends to be a victim. She floats in the water and waits for someone to rescue her. Don't do it. Just call the Coast Guard and keep moving. Oh God, she's... The video cut to black. I sat in my shop staring at the blank screen, trying to process what I'd just watched. Part of me wanted to believe that Brandon Chen had lost his mind out there alone on the water. But the evidence I'd seen on the boat told a different story. The scratches, the bones, the hair in the drain. It all fit with what he'd described. I decided to go back to the Nomad in the morning. If that thing was still aboard, I needed to know about it before Jerry sold the boat to some unsuspecting buyer. I spent most of the night thinking about what I'd seen and heard, and by morning, I'd convinced myself that there had to be a logical explanation. I got to the salvage yard early before Jerry arrived. The dock was empty except for the usual harbor seals and seagulls. I brought a crowbar and a heavy-duty flashlight, planning to search every compartment and storage space on the boat. If someone was hiding aboard, I was going to find them. The Nomad looked the same as it had the day before, except the hatch was closed. I was sure I'd left it open when I left. I called out Coast Guard inspection, anyone aboard? But got no answer. I climbed down into the cabin and started a systematic search. I checked every obvious hiding place first: the forward cabin, the head, the engine compartment. Nothing. But there were storage compartments I hadn't opened the day before, and one of them, a small space behind a panel in the forward cabin, was locked. I used the crowbar to pry it open. Inside, I found more bones, but these weren't fish bones or seal bones. These were human bones. Finger bones, ribs, and a skull that had been picked completely clean. I dropped the crowbar and stumbled backward, pulling out my phone to call the police. That's when I heard something drop onto the deck behind me. I turned around and saw her. She was crouched on all fours between me and the cabin hatch, exactly like the thing in Brandon's drawing. Her skin was pale gray, almost translucent, and I could see her ribs showing through, but her arms and legs were corded with muscle, and her fingers ended in black nails that looked more like claws than fingernails. Those huge black eyes were fixed on me, and she was making a clicking sound with her tongue. She tilted her head to one side, sniffing the air like she was trying to identify my scent. I remembered what Brandon had said about not helping her, and I realized that this thing probably survived by triggering people's natural instinct to rescue someone in distress. She was a predator that used human compassion as bait. I started backing toward the rail, trying to keep my movements slow and non-threatening. She followed, still on all fours, circling to stay between me and the cabin. When I was about 3 feet from the rail, I made my move. I dropped my phone and flashlight and sprinted toward the side of the boat. She was fast, but I had a head start. I went over the rail and hit the cold water hard. The shock of the water knocked the breath out of me, but I managed to surface and swim toward the dock. When I looked back, she was standing at the rail, watching me with those black eyes. Then she dove into the water and disappeared. I hauled myself up onto the dock and ran for my truck, soaking wet and shaking from cold and fear. I drove straight to the police station and tried to explain what I'd found, but I could tell they thought I was crazy. Who was going to believe a story about some kind of sea monster living on a derelict yacht? The police went to check the Nomad anyway, and I went with them. But when we got there, the boat was empty. The bones were gone, the laptop was gone, and there was no sign that anyone had been living aboard. The scratches were still there and the damage was real, but all the evidence I'd found was gone. The cops figured I'd been inhaling too many paint fumes or something and was hallucinating. They filled out a report and told me to get some rest. Jerry was annoyed that I'd wasted everyone's time, but he still paid me for the assessment. As far as he was concerned, the boat just needed some cleanup work and it would be ready to sell. A month later, Jerry sold the Nomad to a retired couple from Oregon. I tried to warn them about what I'd seen, but they thought I was trying to sabotage the sale so I could buy the boat myself for less money. They loaded up their supplies and took the Nomad out for their first cruise. 2 weeks later, the Coast Guard found the boat drifting empty 40 miles southeast of Sitka. Both owners were missing, and there were no signs of struggle except for fresh scratches on the inside of the cabin walls. I stopped trying to warn people after that because I realized she was smart. She eliminated evidence, and she moved from boat to boat, feeding when she needed to and staying hidden the rest of the time. I started tracking reports of missing sailors and couples in southeast Alaska, and I found 23 similar cases over the past 8 years. Solo sailors who never made it home, couples who disappeared from their boats, experienced mariners who vanished without sending any distress calls. I post warnings on sailing forums now, using fake names so people won't know it's me. I tell them that if they see someone in the water, don't stop to help. Radio the Coast Guard and give them the coordinates, but keep moving. Some people listen and change their routes. Most don't. The disappearances keep happening, and I can't sleep because I know she's still out there. Still hunting. Still pretending to be a victim so people will bring her aboard their boats. I found reports going back to the 1970s that describe similar cases, and I think she might have been hunting in these waters for decades. Modern boats just made it easier for her. More victims, more isolated targets. I keep a gun in my shop now, and I never arc alone on a boat. I warn every sailor who comes through my shop that if they see someone in the water who needs help, don't stop. Just radio the Coast Guard and keep moving. Some listen, most don't, and she keeps feeding.